Hello, hello, hello. This is Brian Fuller. I'm with Contigo Technology, and I'm joined today with JD Thompson. I'm the CEO of Contigo Technology, and JD is in our cybersecurity and compliance team, on our cybersecurity and compliance team. And real happy just to kind of walk through some of a topic that's of immense interest to our clients here at Contigo, as well as anybody out there who owns a small business, medium-sized business, or large business. Just what in the world you can do to fend off all this nonsense that's happening in the world of cybersecurity. And so what I want to do is I want to spend about 20 to 30 minutes going through a couple of slides talking about our unique purview as an IT support firm here in Austin, Texas, and giving you some feedback about what we're seeing and what we're hearing from our clients, and in the end, give you a real good understanding of what's an excellent posture for your business to be in, so that you can feel comfortable, feel confident that all of this nonsense that's happening in the cybersecurity orbit doesn't come washing up on your shore. So let me do this first. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So, and JD, just give me a sound check. How do I sound? Give me a thumbs up.
Yep, sound good.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so securing your business, all the lessons learned from an MSP. Why do we have a unique view of this cybersecurity world? Well, one is Contigo, which is an IT support firm. We manage about 90 clients throughout Central Texas, and we see a tremendous amount of activity across those 90 clients. And we have constant, continual conversations with them. And quite honestly, we have a very big responsibility in keeping them safe. The other component is, we have a lot of products that we use in our service, and those products and those vendors, they're continually coming up with technology to help firefight, what's coming out day in and day out. And then thirdly, the reason JD Thompson is so important to Contigo is we have always felt like compliancy and cybersecurity are being more integrated with what people just know of traditional IT support. And so about 2 years ago, Contigo invested in resources and folks like JD, and brought them on board as full-time employees. And we said, hey, we are going to work with our clients to help walk them through a much more larger omnibus cybersecurity footprint. And I'm going to get into the lessons that we learned in helping our clients who are interested in aligning with certain compliancy, what we learned from those relationships, and how we're taking that compliancy and the best practices and lessons learned from it and integrating it just into the IT support footprint we provide for the businesses that don't necessarily have compliancy regulations. And I think at the end, you'll get a good picture of what we're seeing out there, what you can do about it, and how you can stay proactive in years to come. So just a little bit about Contigo. So we want to help you build an offensive cybersecurity posture. A little bit about us. We're about 10 years old. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas. We're about 30 employees. I have, from day one of the pandemic, of the COVID pandemic, we are an essential business, and we are all working in the office. We function much better than the office, and so we're off of 183 in Burnet, and to this day we're doing just great, and we work much better, and we're much more effective for our clients by working in the office. A little bit more about us. So independently owned. We just got recognized. Feel really good about it. We were reviewed versus 37 other local MSPs in 25 different categories, and we got the best managed IT provider in Central Texas award. And I know that's a pat on the back, but it does feel good when we work very hard to put a lot of components in place to have a well-rounded service and get recognized for it. In addition, We've been on the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row, and not to boast on that, but in a day and time when you need to rely on an IT support vendor, you want to work with one that is financially responsible and has some wind in its sails. And we've been awarded on the Inc. 5000 list for 3 years in a row. And that's really a testament to the hardworking employees we have. Okay, so now to the nitty gritty. What is Contigo seeing and watching out there as an IT support firm? And this is really geared to those businesses that don't feel like they have any compliance initiatives that they have to deal with, right? And so by that, I mean, so we manage a couple of hospitals, right? And hospitals have to contend with HIPAA, which is a set of laws that goes well beyond how they manage their IT, but also goes into administrative safeguards. And so the hospitals need to follow, the dotted line that HIPAA requires them to. We also work with a couple of clients who sell upstream into the Department of Defense ecosystem. So imagine if you were selling screws that went onto an engine that somehow ended up at Lockheed, that somehow ended up, in the Department of Defense. They have very strict regulations they have to follow. We play very well in those environments, and we really work with those clients to get them in alignment, because a lot of times when companies deal with compliancy, they're very good on the administrative stuff. The stuff that, like, okay, we got to have a work from home policy, and we got to have a chief security officer, and we have to have all of these processes in place. But when it gets to the IT aspect of it, it's a murky world, because a lot of people, a lot of those kind of companies don't really speak IT language. Well, we do speak both compliancy and IT, and it's been a very good business model for us. But, and with all cards up, the vast majority of our clients, 80% of them, they don't have compliance initiatives they have to abide by. However, they're getting pulled more and more into that world unknowingly. And I'm here to tell you kind of what is pulling them into that mold. So the first thing I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk a little bit about cyber insurance policy questionnaires and what we're seeing from those questionnaires and how they're changing. We're going to talk about ransomware and wire transfer requests and how those requests are really spooking our clients. And actually, we've taken on a couple of clients after they got hit with ransomware, and we've had to work with the cyber insurance companies. And I'll give you a little bit of insight into what those conversations look like. And then there's third parties. Let me do this. Let me get my famous laser pointer. And then there's third parties are asking our clients for their IT procedures. So let's say you're an engineering company and you get a big contract with a large partner, or you're anything from you could offer a wide variety of services. Heck, you can make soccer balls. You can make the leather that goes on soccer balls for a big company, and that big company awards the smaller company the contract, and they want to know what your IT processes are so that they're not single-threaded and out of luck on buying leather for the soccer balls when you get hit with ransomware. And then lastly, everybody pays attention to what's happening in this world today. We all saw the pipeline issues a couple of months back where they got hit with ransomware. We've seen every kind of SaaS-based company, from LinkedIn to Salesforce. You can just name 1,000 of them, and they all get hacked, and we all see it in the news. And everybody, all the stakeholders, the clients that I know, they all, during that time, I'll get an email like, "Hey, do we need to be concerned about this?" That is something that I want to help put to bed with kind of helping our clients endeavor on a better cybersecurity posture. So let's take a look at a couple things. First, I want to spell out just exactly what is going on in this cybercrime ecosystem. And there is a company out there who is the creme de la creme of cyber attack response services. So when the pipeline got hit, up in the Northeast, what they did is they hire a specialized company to come in and investigate what happened, where to go, did they steal the data, and really do a bunch of forensics tests. And one of the leading companies, if not the leading company in that area, is a company called CrowdStrike. And they produce an annual global threat report that really summarizes where all of these attacks are coming from. And I just want to kind of share a couple of highlights of the latest report they put out. So this is really interesting. So big game versus e-crime. There's two types of cybercrime threats that are really happening out there. And the big game stuff is something similar to what happened to SolarWinds here in Austin, Texas, right? So SolarWinds, they sell software monitoring tools. The bad guys, they targeted SolarWinds. They came into their network. They knew what they were looking for. They planted a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse went out and created chaos. That was a targeted attack. That's a big game attack. But for what the vast majority of the small businesses are experiencing is more on the e-crime. And we're going to get into just a couple examples of what e-crime is, and you're going to be very familiar with some of those processes. But what you're seeing is from 2019 to 2020, the big game focus pales in comparison to the e-crime, because the e-crime stuff is very automated and it doesn't care who the targets are. There's a lot of automation and how stuff gets sent out to where at the end of the day, a phishing email gets sent into an employee's inbox. That's usually e-crime related. So let's take a look. Oh, this is a busy slide, I get it, but let me just try to simplify it for you. So look, I got 1, 2, 3. This is the world of e-crime, and it's big and it's nasty, and these guys do not stop with just malicious ideas. I'll give you 3 examples on how these e-crimes get incubated. Well, we all know what ransomware is, right? We all know what ransomware is, and you know that's the ability for somebody to send a phishing email to an employee. They click on it. The ransomware, takes some time to expose itself, and then a lot of bad stuff can happen, and then the ransomware happens. But there's a number of other kind of e-crimes that are on the side that are equally as detrimental to a company. Access brokers, people who steal credentials and just sell those credentials on the dark web. So, hey, I hacked into the ABC company. I've got their net admin passwords. I'll sell them to you for $3,000. Junior novice criminals can go out on the internet and buy kits that show them how to send out phishing emails. I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody that this world is very wide and with kind of malicious activity. And really this e-crime at the end of the day, what it's trying to do, the end result is trying to get to your employees. It's trying to get to their inbox. It's trying to catch them with their guards down. They click on something and then something gets in and gets spawned. And then where it goes through a whole distribution process, right? So I would ask you this question. Okay, let's say you got hit with ransomware and it came into John Doe's email. You might be asking yourself, how in the world did they find out how to get the email to John Doe? Well, it's just a chain of events. They could have hacked somebody miles down the road and then sent a blast out from that person's email, and it went to 20 different people, and then from there somebody else clicked on it, went to 20 different people, and then went 20, and just by bad luck it ends up in your employee's inbox and they click on it. And then once they click on it, there's a whole world of how they go about trying to collect revenue, right? So just 2 easy ones that everybody would understand is ransom payments and extortion, where everything's encrypted and they tell you to go to this website, log in, and you can see what the payment needs to be, or email. Once they get into the email, they search your email and they do a bunch of background check and they email your bank and say, hey, transfer money here to this new bank account. We've all heard stories like this. It's a big world of malicious activity out there, and usually it's focusing on the employees. So the industries, what CrowdStrike says is the industries that are most affected by all this stuff: industrial and engineering, manufacturing, technology, retail, healthcare, financial services. Most of Contigo's clients are in this world. And what's interesting is when these bad guys deploy ransomware and they have access to the network, it is not like they come up with some arbitrary number. They do their homework. They go to see what kind of company you are. They go to see more or less what your basic market cap is, and they come up with a ransomware number that most likely is going to be painful, but most likely you can pay. And so they're not stupid. They kind of know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for some time. Okay, this is interesting. I thought I'd throw this in here just to kind of give you a look at what the cyber insurance companies, how they look at this, right? So I did a cyber insurance webinar a couple of months ago with a cyber insurance broker. And we had them on, and we were just questioning, okay, what does cyber insurance really cover? And the vast majority of what they cover is going to be what happens to you, Mr. Client, through all of this chaos, right? So they're going to pay for legal advice, and they're going to have a forensics team available to come in, and they're going to notify your clients, and anybody else that you have to as to what happened. And they're going to more than likely reimburse you for fraudulent transfers and for the ransomware costs, up to a point of what your cyber insurance contract allows for. And they'll also take into account business interruption and reputational harm. So this is, when I was talking to this young lady who was in charge of writing policies for this company, she made it very clear that the policies that they're writing today are much more stringent and holds the insurance holder, the policy holder, much more accountable for keeping their infrastructure up to date. And I want to show you a couple of examples of what I mean. So we get these requests all the time from our clients who are who need to sign an annual cyber insurance policy. Hey, I have to sign a cyber insurance policy. I have to go through each year and do my business liability and also get into the weeds on cyber insurance policies. And look, being an IT support company, we pay particular attention to how these cyber insurance policies are questioning us, everything that we have to do to fall in line so that we can get reimbursed if something bad was to happen. But this is an example of a questionnaire that came to one of our clients, and this is drastically more granular than what we saw from our clients asking us a couple of years ago. So what I'm saying is, our clients, we have good relationships with them, and they'll say, hey, Brian, I'm trying to get a cyber insurance policy. Can you tell me if we're doing all of this stuff? And it's well beyond IT these days. These cyber insurance providers, they want to know that your house is in order. And so just look at a couple. They all want to know, do you have a chief information security officer designated? Because they want to go to one person when they're dealing with these cyber insurance claims. Does the applicant publish and distribute written policies and procedures regarding computer and information security? Look, I know in working with small businesses, we're all trying to grow the business. We're focused on, what revenue is all about and how do we get more revenue. And writing procedures and policies isn't something that we've always done as small businesses, but they want you to do it now. Are you doing internal vulnerability scanning? I can guarantee you that 99% of IT support firms are not doing internal vulnerability scanning. However, if you're the company that's filling this out, I would bet that you think that IT companies are doing this. Well, they're traditionally they're not. This is forcing everybody to kind of get in lockstep with being a bit more secure with cybersecurity. Our laptops encrypted and all of this stuff. Are all employees that are responsible for dispersing and transmitting funds provided anti-fraud, including detection of social engineering? So are they getting cybersecurity training, right? Once again, that is not something that a normal IT support firm does, nor is it something that a normal business who manages their own IT infrastructure does. But the cyber insurance companies who are seeing all these claims being filed, they're not just going to be giving money away. They want to know that everybody is upping their game when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's just one example. Let me just go before I get into that. This is just one example where I was talking about earlier. You may not be a company that needs to get in, you don't have a compliancy regulation that you need to be in alignment with. But what you can see happening is you can see yourself being pushed into a compliancy-based posture based on cyber insurance in the cyber insurance policies. No company out there should be doing business without a cyber insurance policy these days. And in the conversations I have, this is one of the fastest areas of insurance, and I don't think that would surprise anybody. And another, just on the other example of like, hey, if you get a big contract with some kind of big entity, they're asking these same questions, and they want to know before they sign a contract and allow you to do business with them, do you have your house in order? Once again, forcing you into a more compliant posture. So let's take a look at compliancy and in the big picture, and then back into what a company, a small business can take away from this crazy world of compliancy and focus on and pull best practices that it can deploy across its infrastructure. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to JD Thompson, who is a registered an RPO for CMMC, which is a really heavy regulation that we help clients with. It also helps our healthcare clients fall in line with HIPAA regulations. JD, why don't you take us through this slide and just kind of take us left to right and tell us what we're looking at, and then kind of boil it down to what best practices a company can follow.
Yeah, absolutely. So as one of the largest MSPs, the managed service providers in Austin, Texas, we see a lot of these regulations, and our clients were coming to us and saying, again, for the specifics that we gave for HIPAA and CMMC, there's a lot of IT security implementations that have to be done. And so if you look here in the middle of the screen, the industry regulations, there you have things like HIPAA, PCI, DSS. These are going to be specifically towards those industries. Here are the security requirements that you have to put in place to keep your environment safe. So we do a really good job at helping our clients prepare their environments for those type of regulations. Now, a little bit to your right, you can see that there's security regulations. This is getting a little bit more in depth, a little bit more stringent. And the reason behind that is just, this thing's for, as Brian said, the Department of Defense. So now there's people's lives at stake. So we're going to take a more proactive approach, a heavier approach to cybersecurity, and you'll see the security regulations there. So for both of those, the industry regulations and the security regulations, it's a little bit easier to kind of know what to do with cybersecurity because it tells you what to do. But the vast majority, as Brian was saying, was 80% of our clients aren't in an industry or security regulation. So how are they supposed to know, how do I keep my environment the most protected? And that really gets into the NIST cybersecurity framework. And so NIST is the National Institute for Standards and Technology. What they did is actually the president signed Executive Order 13636 into place, which was securing our critical infrastructure. So NIST partnered with the government, decided to come up with a framework that any organization could follow, no matter the size, no matter the sector they're in, to best secure their environments.
What's interesting about this is when Contigo first started out with a compliancy practice, what we went to all of our clients and when we spoke to them, we said, hey, let's get ahead of this game, right? Let's not be on our heels when you get asked for a cyber insurance questionnaire, or you get a big client that wants you to follow some IT practices. Let's follow the NIST cybersecurity framework and get you in alignment with it. And so when you do get asked these questions, you can say, hey, I follow this stuff. This is kind of our DNA of how we set up our IT resources. And what I found out, what Contigo found out about this was, look, nobody wants to get in compliancy that's not forced into compliancy. And this was about a year and a half ago. And everybody thought it was a good idea, and nobody was really willing to do it because it was compliancy. Nobody enjoys doing compliancy except JD. JD enjoys compliance. Uh, so now it's a year and a half later, and there's been a tremendous uptick in cybercrime. And so what Contigo has done, and this is what we want to share with you what our best practices are, is we've now gone and pulled just the IT best practices out of this NIST cybersecurity framework and left all the administrative stuff to the side, and have begun going back to our clients and measuring their current IT posture against these 26 NIST cybersecurity framework procedures. And we're going to get into that a little bit and just kind of show you where the rubber meets the road. But first, JD, this is a little bit more about NIST. Could you, maybe this tells a little bit more about who it is and the background and kind of where it came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So NIST is the U.S. Is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. It is a free resource, but again, it was a collaboration of experts in the field of cybersecurity. NIST in general they have a bunch of different categories that they follow, but one of them was the cybersecurity. So they saw the executive order go out, and a group of people came together to say, okay, we need to write what the best practices are. We need to have everyone know, if you have no idea what to do for your cybersecurity or how to secure your environment, we need to build a framework. So again, this is really just showing it is a government site. They have the knowledge and the expertise to really put this together. So it's not just I found this framework on Reddit or off the anywhere on the internet. It's really got the verification behind it.
And that's quite honestly when we were new to compliancy and looking for a higher power to share with our clients these best practices. You saw that slide with all the different regulations, and man, they're overwhelming. Like what's the nucleus? NIST is the nucleus. And when you look at HIPAA, when you look at ISO, when you look at SOC 2, and you look at the IT requirements and all of those, they're being pulled from NIST. And though NIST does have 4 or 5 flavors depending on the size of the company, they do set the standard, and it's widely adopted now that those are the best practices to follow. Okay, so you're hearing it for the first time. NIST is a scary word. Compliancy is a word you really don't want to mess with. But baked in it, there are serious IT best practices that would make any CEO, business owner comfortable if they could follow those best practices. So let's get offensive and implement best practices. And so what our recommendation is for our clients, as well as anybody else out there, align with the standard, right? I mean, we've all been in a situation where I know somebody who's in IT, they're telling me we should do this, this, and this. We were those guys for a while and still are. We got a lot of smart people, but following a set of standards really resonates with businesses and when we talk to them. And it's when you're aligning yourself for best practices, it's not all about products. It's a lot about processes, right? I have more vendors call me and tell me they've got the silver bullet for cybersecurity than anybody else out there in the atmosphere. I get calls from people who have a SOC. I get calls from antivirus people. I get calls from breach protection, and just on and on and on. And I know that that's just one thing that can help in a comprehensive IT security posture. So, if you have an IT person in-house, I would tell them to align with some of these standards. If you use an MSP or AKA IT support firm, make sure they have a cybersecurity focus. And lastly, there's responsibility that falls on all of us in this posture, right? I mean, a company like myself, Contigo, we can deploy products and processes, but there is a piece in the equation that calls on the clients and the companies themselves to really help push out this overall IT posture. And I'll share you some of those responsibilities here in the next slide. Okay, so let's take a look at what traditional MSPs or IT support firms are doing. All right. So what I've done here is imagine, if you would, we have 90 clients over here at Contigo, and that all of them we've had a different IT company before us. And when we transitioned them from the legacy IT company over to Contigo, it's very interesting to see what we're taking off in terms of the products that they had versus the products that Contigo has. And so what I thought I would do is NIST has 5 different categories: identify your data and assets, protect your data, detect, respond, and recover. And the typical IT support firm, they do a lot of ticketing, and they got a help desk, and they might have a management tool that does patching and server patching, and they're probably doing backups. Hopefully they're doing them right. And then on the client security, they might have a spam filter in front of email, and they might have antivirus. Well, what our footprint is over here at Contigo, it's much more comprehensive. When we look over here at the categories of the NIST cybersecurity framework, it's got many subcategories. And what we did, and thought this would be worth sharing, is we isolated the areas of these that were IT specific, right? So when I look at identify, I'm looking at, I need to know, asset management. I need to know very clearly what everything is on the network, how old it is, what version of software it's at, and really be aware of and tag all of that stuff, and always be mindful of what's on the network. And then to protect it, yeah, you do spam filtering like that rank and file IT company did, but you also got to train the employees. You got to do user training. They're a very key, important piece of the puzzle. They are the targets. And so you've got to train the employees through cybersecurity training. And this is one of those areas where I say, hey, Mr. Client, you have a responsibility here to encourage your users to do training. I can give them the ability to take the test, but the clients have got to help nudge their employees to take the test. And then antivirus, of course, that's predictive learning and vulnerability. These are the protect. And then where most companies fall really short in having a IT posture that's cybersecurity aware is you have to assume that something's going to get through. You have to assume that you can't just have an offensive line. You got to have the idea that somebody's going to get through the offensive line, and they're going to get to the quarterback. And when they do, you've got to be aware of it. So what companies like us do is we go a layer deep, and we have a 24/7 security operations center, and it tells us if any breaches have happened. And if those breaches do happen, we isolate the devices that have been breached. Active Directory monitoring, most companies these days, I mean, there's a movement from having servers on premise to up in the cloud. In those servers is where the bad guys want to get to give themselves additional administrative functionality. And Contigo has, once again, we've invested in products that go at that level and tell us if policies have been changed, if new users have been added, if administrative rights have been changed. And all of this is about being prepared in case a breach does happen, so you can isolate it when it does happen. And so it goes on and on. I always say, in the business we're in, we've bought a tremendous amount of products to help secure our clients in this world of cybercrime. And, they're all shiny objects to us, but they really do help the product component of cybersecurity, in helping our clients stay safe. The other component is you have to continually audit what you have, right? One of what we talk about around here is when we take over a client, you can't assume that the infrastructure that you get was built properly and put intact properly. And so you have to have people go through, and in this particular case, this is us taking 26 security best practices out of NIST cybersecurity building them into a blueprint for each of our clients, and going through and asking, is each of these things happening? And if is each of these things happening, are our clients in alignment with that? And going back to the clients and saying, look, you've got 25 of the 26, but the 26 is you don't have a multi-factor authentication, for example, turned on an email. This is something you are really encouraged to do, because we're at a day and age now where everybody has got liability in this cyber insurance picture. And you have to speak very, very clearly about what the overall posture a client is in, and make them aware of the risks that they have. And really, that's what you're there to do. You're there to offer strategic guidance. Contigo is with our clients, offer strategic guidance on what is the next phase in increasing that posture. So, that's a very quick run through of kind of what every company of any size should be doing to keep their IT infrastructure in lockstep with best practices. JD has been extremely helpful in his knowledge of compliancy and helping drive a lot of those compliancy initiatives into our overall IT service. We feel like we've got a real good posture, and it's been really successful for the client base that we have. My intention was just to give you kind of a purview into some of the best practices an IT company who sees a tremendous amount of activity day in and day out, and what we're doing, how we hear from our vendors, what we're seeing from our clients in terms of what's forcing them into these better cybersecurity postures. And we hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or would like to contact Contigo, you can always, for our clients who are on the call, reach out directly to your client success manager. They have business reviews that are set up that are talking about that audit that we are highlighting there, and kind of where you stand next to those 26 best practices. If you're looking for an IT support firm, please reach out to info@contigotx.com, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you found that helpful.